Hey, good morning, my friend. Welcome back to the Ride In. It is Saturday morning, and it is January the 10th. This morning I was reading in the Bible, going through the book of Numbers as a part of my scripture reading, and I came upon the story of when Moses was preparing the children to go into the promised land, leading them, and they came to Kadesh Barnea, and they had sent the 12 spies, one representative leader from each tribe, to go and search out the land, to spy out the land, and just to see what they were getting themselves into, to make preparation, to come up with strategy as they were to follow God's call and going into Canaan to claim it as their inheritance. Well, as they spied out the land, they certainly saw that it was a land of plenty, wonderful, fruitful, great potential. Unfortunately, they noticed some obstacles that caused them to be very afraid and very hesitant to enter. They saw the giants, the sons of Anak, and as they came back to give their report, 10 of them gave a negative report. They gave a report that was based on fear. They gave their human perspective in that, comparing themselves to the people of the land, they said there were giants and we were as grasshoppers. He basically told the people that there's no way we can do this. This is bigger than us. We're not able. We're going to go in there and we're going to get crushed. We should have stayed in Egypt. We should go back to Egypt. All of that. And just, boy, what an amazing thing when you think of all that they had seen God do up to that point. And still, they just were such a stubborn, faithless people for the most part. And Joshua and Caleb, two spies that had faith in God, they tried to combat this negative viewpoint and just said, no, listen, we can do this. We can do this because we have God. God's called us to go, and He's going to go with us. He's going to do what He's done all this time so far. And we can trust Him. And they may be bigger than us, but they're not bigger than our God. Just like Egypt. And their message did not prevail. The people got discouraged, and God had enough, and He said, okay, forget it. This generation is not going to go into the promised land, and they'll wander for 40 years. A very sad ending to a generation that saw God do so much. Incredible. I wanted to encourage you today let's look at this story and just think of a few things. One, we might ask, what's the purpose of spying out the land? If God said they were going to just go in and take it over, why go in there? And I think it's important for us to understand that in the process of events of life, there is a human responsibility and a human element that God expects of us, that all the while He leads us, He also expects us to be proactive and to use the minds that He's given to us. And so there was going into going to spy the land was not with the purpose to determine whether or not they would go or would not go. It was to, from a human perspective, go in there and see, okay, this is what we're dealing with. This is the landscape. This is the roadways, the passageways, the different things they would have to navigate, and they needed to know those things so they could plan and prepare. And yes, we know the story in the book of Joshua and how God at times would specifically direct them in cases like Jericho what to do, but there also were times where Scripture doesn't record where God specifically told them exactly what to do step by step, and so there was that human element. Sometimes God stepped in and gave specific orders, and sometimes he led them through their human experience and wisdom. And in the process of preparing to go into the promised land, the Jews, it was wise and prudent to take that step to go in there. But at the same time, and this is where we can take a practical application, when we assess the situation and we look ahead and plan and count the cost, when we feel that God is leading us somewhere by His Spirit and through biblical principle, we can't allow the obstacles that even seem to be bigger than us to get in the way of keeping us from taking a step of faith. We need to follow God regardless. We to the best of our ability, we plan and prepare, and we assess, and we make wise decisions, but at the end of the day, we can't allow our fear of failure, our fear of the enemy, our fear of things that seem greater than us or stronger than us, or we can't let those keep us from moving forward. And so we don't run into a situation haphazard and say, oh, God will take care of it. That's unwise, and that's a cop-out from what our human responsibility is. At the same time, when we've done all we can and it seems like there's no way, we still trust God. And I think God honors both. He honors the planning and the preparation and the diligence and the work, but He also honors the faith. He honors the faith that we would step out and take that risk when we think something is beyond our ability, yet we're trusting Him because we believe He's leading us. And so, Christian, it's a lifelong process to balance those two trains of thoughts in terms of our human responsibility and our following God in faith and trusting His providence to provide and to give strength and overcoming power. And so, let's ask God to help us with that. What is it that you believe the Lord's leading you to do, but you just don't see? You don't see the way. You don't see how. All you can see is how it'll end in failure. Okay, well, if God's leading you to do it, then do it and fail. It's better to try and fail than to disobey God. But there's so much to be learned in the process of following God in faith and trusting Him and taking one step at a time, allowing His Word to be a lamp unto our feet and a light unto our path. The Jews had plenty of evidence that God's power was able. And so do we. So do we. Their problem was they let fear make the decision. And that's something we just cannot do. Don't let fear make your decision, Christian. Follow God in faith. Hope that's a help to you today. I love you. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.